everyone, this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make this necklace and earring set. And that's what the whole set looks like. Let's zoom back into the focal area so you can see how pretty it is. And this we are making with some of the things found in the Autumn Tones treasure bag. However, these are very common beads and very easily replaced with things in your stash. So do not feel left out. Just grab some stuff and beat along with me. Let's look and see what it takes to make this particular project. Okay, for this particular project, we're going to be using a few things from the Autumn Tones treasure bag and adding a few things to it. These are all very common size and shaped beads, so it's very easy for you to go into your stash and get what you need. Or I do have most of these sizes and shapes of beads on my website, so I'll post a link for that. However, don't feel left out because this is very easy to accomplish and you can do it in a lot of different color tones and you can make it more Christmassy or less Christmassy depending upon the color and type of beads you choose. And we're going to start with the 6mm round. This is the 6mm round glass red beads that are in your Autumn Tones treasure bag. You could use a 6mm round glass pearl or a crystal if you would like. Then we're going to be using some 4x4 cuboids. This is a clear AB cuboid, and you can also use a 4mm bicone or a 4mm round bead for this. You could use a round crystal or a round pearl. It'll all work just fine. Then we're going to be using 2 pieces of artistic wire or whatever wire you choose. This is 20 gauge and I've cut them about 2.5 inches long. This is tarnish resistant brass that I'm using. Then you're going to need a few wire guardians. These are small wire guardians and they are the antique copper tone or antique bronze tone. And you will need 2 for the earrings and 1 for the necklace. We're also going to be using some of the chain that came in the Autumn Tones treasure bag. You can use any chain that you would like. And the clasp that came in the Autumn Tones treasure bag, you can use any clasping that you would like. We're going to use about 4 4mm round jump rings. I'm using a little bit heavier gauge. It's probably about a 20 gauge and it is a golden tone. We're going to be using some seed beads. We're going to be using an 11/0 and a 15/0 and just a few 8/0s. I have galvanized permanent finish Toho in Starlight in my 15/0 and I have antique bronze in my 11/0 and galvanized permanent finish Starlight in my 8/0. You will also need a size 12. You may be able to get away with a size 10 beading needle. We're using 15/0s, so a 12 will travel through better. I'm going to use some 10-pound nanofill. You can also use 6-pound Fireline. You can also use 8-pound nanofill. That will work just fine. Go ahead and put onto your needle about a wingspan of your thread, and let's go ahead and get started. I have a wingspan of thread on my needle. A wingspan is when you spread your arms out to your sides like you're going to fly away. You measure from the fingertips of your first arm, the length of that arm across your chest, the length of the second arm to the fingertips on that hand. And then we will begin. So now we're going to pick up, to start this project, we're going to pick up an 11/0 and then a 6mm round bead and then an 11/0 and then 3 of your 4mm beads, whether that be a cuboid, a round, or a bicone. And then let's get closer. We're going to bring this to the end of the thread. That's a little too close. You don't have to leave a long tail, but you need to leave enough that you can hold on to and so that your beads won't slide off. Then you're going to go back through all of these beads from the tail side with your needle, just like this. Hold on to all of these beads and pull your needle through. Hold on to that tail thread as you do this, and then just pull all these beads around into a circle. Tug on your tail a little bit, tug on your working thread, and then let's tie a knot with the working thread and the tail. So we're just going to do an overhand knot just to hold it in place and to tie it twice. Make sure that your thread goes down between the beads and not on top of them. And then let's get a little closer. This is what you should have. Now let's sew back through all of these beads. I'm coming out between the cuboid and the 11-0, so I'm going to go into the 11-0, and I'm just going to sew all the way around. So I am now in the 6mm round, so I'm just going to go all the way around and go through all of these beads. And now that I've gone through all of them, I am going to sew around halfway until I'm coming out of this cuboid, so the one across from where your tail is. So I'll need to go through this 11-0, the 6mm round, the 11-0, and the cuboid. Now we're going to continue making units that look like this unit. We're going to have in each one 3 cuboids and 2 11-0s and a 6mm round. However, we're going to be sharing a cuboid in each one, so you'll only have to pick up 2. So the way to determine what you're going to pick up next is which direction your thread is coming out of the cuboid. So we're coming out towards the cuboids, so we know we have to pick up the cuboids first. We're sharing a cuboid, so we're going to pick up 2 cuboids, and then we're going to pick up an 11-0, a 6mm round, and an 11-0 onto our needle, just like this. Then we're going to go back into the cuboid we're coming out of on the opposite side. Just avoid that 11-0 and go up through the cuboid, or whatever 4mm bead you're using. Just like this. Now we want to make sure each of these units are tight and neat, so we're going to sew back through each unit. It makes a big difference on how your piece will look. So just start sewing back through. I was coming out of this cuboid. I'm going through these 2 now. And I'm going to give a little tug as I come through to make everything tight. And then I'm going to go through this 11-0 and the 6mm round and the 11-0 on the other side of it. I'm going to come back through the connecting cuboid. And then I need to sew over to the farthest cuboid to start my next unit. So I'm going to sew through this cuboid and the one behind it. Now this time our thread is coming out in the direction of this 6mm round bead. So we need to complete our unit by picking up an 11-0, a 6mm round, an 11-0, and then 2 cuboids, because we're going to share the cuboid we are coming out of. So we've got this. Now we're going to go all the way around through the top of this cuboid here, just like this. And we are going to pull these beads down. The thread is being weird. Just like this. Now it's going to start to curve in towards the cuboids, and that's what we want. Now we're going to sew through this entire unit again, because we want to make sure that everything is tight and neat, plus we're using crystals, so having 2 passes of thread is going to ensure that your pendant isn't going to fall apart. So go through each bead again. Once you're all the way around, then you have to sew again to the farthest cuboid. So go through these 3 beads here. Into the 11-0 and into the cuboid. I'm just going to give a little tug to make sure that unit is nice and tight, and I'm going to continue again. So I'm coming out of this cuboid, I'm coming out towards the cuboids. My thread is in that position towards the cuboids. So I'm going to start with 2 cuboids. I'm sharing this one, so I need 2. And then I pick up an 11/0 and a 6mm round and an 11/0. And then I go into the opposite side of the crystal I'm coming out of, right here. And pull these down. Then we're going to sew around this entire unit again. So we're going to go into these 2 cuboids, down into the 11/0, the 6mm round, the 11/0, and back up into all of these cuboids. Now go ahead and make 3 more units just like this and we'll be back. Okay, now we have 7 of our units, so you can just count your 6mm round beads. And then we are going to cut this tail a little, just to get it out of the way some. We can cut it down and burn it down more in just a minute. Now we're coming out of this cuboid here on our last unit, just like we would have after we've sewn around it the second time to make sure it's secure. And now we're going to make a connecting unit from this unit to this unit to complete our circle. And now you can see we're sharing this bead as usual. We're going to share this bead too. We're coming out towards the cuboids, so we're going to pick up a cuboid, and we're going to travel from this cuboid, we just have one, into this cuboid from the inside of the circle out, like this. Excuse me, throat is being weird. And we're just going to pull this down into the circle into place like this. Now you can see all we need to do to finish this unit is to pick up our 11/0, 6mm round 11/0, and then go into this cuboid from the outside in. So we're going to pick up an 11/0, a 6mm round, and an 11/0. We're going to avoid this 11/0 here, go into the crystal here. Come on, you. Just like this. And it's okay if everything gets loose, just let it get loose and then pull these beads down. And now you can see we have completed our circle. We need to sew through this unit, however, so we're coming out of this cuboid right here. Let me get you in just a little closer. And then we're going to sew into the middle cuboid here, down into this one from the inside out, into the 11/0 6mm round and 11/0 on the other side of it. If I can get it, just like that. And then we're going to go up into this connecting cuboid here. Okay, now I'm going to take my lighter and I'm just going to lightly burn this little thread down. And I am going to sew over one more unit or one more bead just to make sure that I'm secure here. So I'm coming out of this bead here. I'm going to go into this one. And then I'm going to go up into this one. So I'm going from the inside out and make sure everything's nice and secure. So to firm this up, we're going to go into the middle beads here, and we're going to put an 11/0 seed bead in between. So since we're coming out of this cuboid out towards the outside, we have to work around until we get to this one, which will also secure our thread from our last stitches. So we're going to go into the 11/0, the 6mm round, and the 11/0 right where our needle is coming out here, or our thread is coming out. And then we're going to sew up into this cuboid here, and then into the middle one. Now we've just sewn completely around that unit, and we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead. We're going to slide from this cuboid to this cuboid and put an 11-0 in between. So just go directly into the next one and pop that 11-0 down tight in between those beads. And we're going to do this all the way around. So we're coming out of this cuboid. We're now going to go into this cuboid with an 11-0 on our needle and pull it down. And we're going to do this around the entire center piece. So I'm going to go from this one to this one. So continue placing your 11-0s in between the center crystals, and we'll be back when we get to this crystal here. Okay, so now I'm coming out of this crystal here. I have one more 11-0 to place. As you can see, let's get you a little closer. And so I'm going to pick up my 11-0, and then I'm going to go through the crystal, the 11-0 behind it, and then the crystal behind that 11-0, just to get my thread all the way around past the last placement of the bead here. Now you can see this has firmed it up some. It's still a little floppy, but it's firmed it up quite a bit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go up into this vertical cube. So we're coming out of this horizontal one. We're going to go up into the vertical cube. And we're going to begin an embellishment between cube to cube here. So let me back off just a little here. And we're going to start by picking up 5 11-0 seed beads. So I'm using my antique bronze 11-0, and I'm going to pick up 5. And I'm coming out of the top of this bead here. I'm going to go into the bottom or the inside of the circle of this cube right past the 6mm round. So you're coming out this way and you're going in this way. And you're going to pull these 11-0 seed beads down. Just like that. You want them to lay nice and neat. And then you're going to pick up 5 more 11-0 seed beads. And you're going to do the same thing again. You're coming out towards the outside here. You're going to go to the next vertical crystal and go in from the inside. So just push that 11-0 out of your way a little bit and go into the next crystal and pull your beads down. Make sure that they line up nice and neat. Make sure you have good tension on them, because if you do not, when you set your next one, they'll be loose and they won't look very good. So continue picking up 5 11-0 seed beads onto your needle, and then pass through the next vertical crystal from the inside of the bead. So I'm coming out here, I'm going to go here. Give a nice tug, that will set the previous strand, and then you can move into the next embellishment. Move all the way around until we get here, and we'll be back. Okay, so you can see I've traveled all the way around. I just need to put on one more embellishment from this cuboid to the cuboid we started in. So we're going to pick up our 5 11-0 seed beads, and then we're just going to go down into the last crystal, the one that we started our first embellishment in. Pull these down. Come here. Pull these down tight, and then turn your piece over. And we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to travel in this direction now. We're coming out this way. We'll go down into this bead here, up through the middle. So pick up 5 of your 11-0 seed beads. Coming out here, we're going to go in here. Pull these down tight, and then continue all the way around again. Make sure this one is tight because it's going to set the last one on the other side, and then pick up 5 more, go into the next bead. So you're coming out of the outside, you're going into the inside, just like we've been doing. Pull this one tight, so that you can set the previous embellishment. Yeah, come here, thread. And it wants to tangle on everything. Just go slow and control it and continue all the way around, just like we did on the other side. When we get here, we'll be back. Okay, I'm going to put on my last embellishment. So I'm going to get out this crystal here. I've got my 5 seed beads on my needle, and I'm going to go up through the first crystal we started in. And pull it tight. Okay, so now you have an embellishment on both sides here. Now we're going to pick up, we're going to do this one more time, and this time we're going to do it with 15 O seed beads. So we're coming out of this bead here. We're going to pick up 6 of your 15 O seed beads onto your needle. So 4, 5, 6. Let me see, make sure. Now I have 7. Darn it. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So I'm coming out of this crystal here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make sure that I keep my thread in front of this last embellishment, and then I'm going to go down into the next crystal. So we're coming out of the outside, we're going to go down into the inside, have our thread on the outside of the first embellishment, and pull this down nice and tight. Now the first one, you kind of have to arrange your beads so that they pull and lay nicely like this. You want them to lay right in front of the previous embellishment. So we're going to do this again. We're going to pick up 6 beads onto our needle, 6 15 O's. These 15 O's are messing with me, people. I'm sorry. Okay, then I'm going to make sure my thread is in front of that last embellishment, go up through the next crystal. I'm going to bring this down and lay my beads out nice and neat, kind of position them so that they look good, like this. And we're going to continue doing that all the way around. So go ahead and continue, and we'll be back. Okay, so this is what I have so far. I'm going to put on my last 6 15 O seed beads. So I'm coming out of this crystal here. I'm going to go down into the first one I started in. It's kind of hidden. You can turn it over if you need to. Let me back off a little. That's a little too close. And then let's go up through that bead and draw this last embellishment down. Just do it slowly, and then you kind of have to push these beads up into place so that the last 15 O wants to sink down in between the beads. Just make sure it lays flat right beneath the last embellishment so it's not buried. And then we're going to turn it over. We're coming out of this bead, and we're going to begin the same thing on the other side. So this is a double-sided pendant. So now I've got my 6 11 O seed beads. I'm coming out of this crystal here. I'm going to go up through this one. If you're using small thread and you're using a small needle, this shouldn't be a problem. Now see, this wants to sink down underneath, so I'm going to pull it back up and gently guide it into place, just like that. So if you're having issues, it might be the size of your thread or the size of your needle, but these should go through very easily. Even though we've gone through many times already, there's still plenty of room in your beads to continue doing this. So go ahead and pick up 6 more of your 15 O's, and then go into the next crystal. Pull it through very slowly. You can see I'm moving very slowly, very deliberately, so that I can lay this in here really neat. If you're not patient, you can't get it to be nice and neat. Your little embellishment, the 15 O's, will kind of be buried under your 11 O's, and it won't look as pretty. So just make sure you put each one in very deliberately and arrange it so that it's nice and neat. Give a little tug and move to the next one. Go ahead and finish going all the way around the circle. Okay, so I've gone all the way around. I'm going to put in my last embellishment. So I've got the 6 beads onto my needle, and this last one, it can be kind of hard to find the bottom of the bead, so just keep probing in there until you find it. There it is. It's not full, it's just hidden. So just kind of mess with it until you get it. It most definitely can be done. Get this little 15-0 up here. Pull this down nice and neat. And this is what I have. Both sides are very pretty. Now, we are coming out of this crystal right here. We need to sew up into this bead. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through this little 11-0 right next to the 6mm round, and then into the 6mm round, ignoring, do not go through the 11-0 on the other side, and kind of push that 11-0 away from the entrance, because as you go through you kind of pull it. Want to make sure that last embellishment is tight, and now we are ready to put on our bail. To put on our bail, you're going to need your wire guardian, so have it handy, and then you're going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads onto your needle, and then 2 8-0s, and then 3 more 11-0 seed beads. Not 4, just 3. And we're coming out of this side of this 6mm round. We're going to go into the opposite side, just like this, and pull all of these beads down, and we're just going to kind of straighten them up, and then we're going to try to move these 8-0s right to the center, just like this, so you have kind of a little loop around your beads. Now we are going to go back up through, we're coming out of this 6mm round, go back up through 3 11-0s on this side. Oh, come here. Things are just not working today. I'm sorry. My eyes are being weird. So we're going to go through all 3 of these 11-0s. Come here. And 1 8-0. I've got through 3 11-0s, so I'm just going to, because I'm clumsy today, so I'm just going to go through those, and then I'm going to go through the 8-0. Just like that. Now I'm going to try to straighten these 2 8-0s to where they're at an angle, kind of like a herringbone here. And I'm going to pick up my wire guardian, and I'm going to go through one end of my wire guardian, like this. Bring it down. Bring it down on top of these 8-0s, just like this. And then you're going to go through the other side of your wire guardian and just the 8-0 here, and you're going to pull this down. Now make sure it doesn't twist, and it lays right on top of these 2 8-0s, just like this. Then we're going to cross over into the bottom of the 8-0 next to the one we're coming out of, just like this, and we're going to go up through the wire guardian and pull the thread up, and it's just misbehaving, of course. I don't know what else I would expect. Pull this up and just kind of straighten everything out, and so it looks like this. Now you've got a loop of thread underneath these 2 8-0s. You're going to pull that tight so that you don't see it that much, and then you're going to go back down through the wire guardian into the 8-0 and the 3 11-0s beneath it. Boy, it's just really arguing with me. This isn't hard, guys, I promise. So I have it like this. I've got my needle coming out of the 3 11-0s. I'm going to put my fingers together, my thumb and my finger, and I'm going to guide this thread into the top divot of that wire guardian. I can feel it slide through my fingers. And then I'm going to go back into this 6mm round and tangle my thread. Come on. Just like that. And then I'm going to sew through this again. So I'm trying to keep everything as neat as I can as I do this. I'm going to go back up through these 3 11-0s on this side, and the 8-0, and the wire guardian, just like that. And then back through the other side of the wire guardian and just the 8-0, right like this. So we're going to pull these together a little tighter. So I'm going to guide my thread by holding my thumb and my finger together. I'm going to cross under the next 8-0. So I'm coming out of this 8-0 here. I'm going to cross under and go up through the wire guardian also. Pull that very tightly together so that those 8-0s come together. And then back down through the wire guardian. My issue is my wire guardian is kind of crooked. So I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers, if I can find them, and I'm going to straighten out this wire guardian because it's the issue here. There we go. And then I'm going to go back down into the wire guardian and down into the 3 beads beneath that 8-0, just like that. Now that pulled that together nicer. Just take your time. It's very easy. It's just a little cumbersome, a little fidgety to do. Then we're going to go back into this 6mm round bead. Pull everything nice and neat. And this is what you should have, just like this. Then we are going to tie a little knot. So let's see. Let's go down into, we're in this 6mm round here. Let me get you close. Let's go down into the 11-0 right next to that 6mm round, and then down into the crystal like this. So there's a crystal right underneath there. See that? We're going through that. It's easier if you turn it over. And then we are going to tie a knot here. So we're coming out of the crystal here. Let's go into the, or let's just go underneath this 11-0 through these beads. Nope, better idea. Sorry guys, better idea. Let's go up into these 15-0s. Right here. Gotta get somewhere where we can tie a nice little knot. And there's a little thread bridge right here. So I'm going to get you really close so you see what I'm talking about. Right here. I am going to go underneath that little thread right at the end of these 15-0s, and without distorting anything, I'm going to gently pull a loop, go through that loop, and then gently pull a knot down on that thread, and then I am going to go back into the crystal. So there's a crystal right here. I'm going to go back into that crystal, come out the center, pull my thread tight, and cut it off, leaving a little tag. Oh, my dull scissors. It's just a struggle today. I'm sorry, guys. Really, I'm really sorry. This is really an easy project, I promise. Let me back off a little. I have this piece of thread here. It's kind of long. You might want it to be a little shorter. I'm just going to get, yeah, and this isn't going to work. There we go. This is turning into a comedy routine. I'm going to just roll that down into my piece here. Just get the flame close, don't light it on fire, and just roll your extra piece of thread down. And this is what you should have. Now you're going to make 2 more just like this for your earrings. and we are going to proceed making the necklace. So I'm going to get my 2 little pieces of wire here, and we will
Okay, so
get
I've got
ready.
my 2 pieces of wire, and I'm just going to kind of straighten them out a little bit with my nylon nose pliers here. They don't have to be perfect, but you don't want them to be funny either. So just straighten them out some. And then we are going to make a loop on the end here. So we're going to make 2 components that will lead up into our necklace.
So we're going to get a little closer here,
and we're going to go about 3/8 of an inch down on our
wire,
and bend the wire over.
just like this.
Then we're going to grab a round nose pliers, place at the end. I'm going to make these loops kind of big, so I'm going to place it at the very end of the wire here, and kind of a little bit more than halfway down my plier here so that it's a little bit bigger loop. And I'm going to begin to turn.
I'm going to turn as far as I can, and then I'm going to reposition my wrist by just moving my hand forward
and continue to turn all the way.
And this is what you should have, just like this.
Now I'm going to take my flat nose pliers and I'm going to close this loop and straighten it.
So I'm just going to straighten it a little because I bent it up.
And then I'm going to lift one side of the loop, the open side, and I'm just going to shimmy it up and down until I move it in all the way and close that loop.
Just like that.
And then I am going to pick up onto my wire an 8/0 seed bead, a 6mm round, oh come here, a cuboid, or excuse me, an 8/0, and then a cuboid, and I'll show you what I have, and then an 8/0, a 6mm round, and an 8/0.
And this is what I have.
Now we're just going to make a loop on the other side. So we're going to go just a little bit above that 8/0 seed bead, and we're going to
Bend the wire all the way over.
Now we're going to cut our leftover wire because it's a little too long, and we're going to cut it about 3/8 of an inch again. And grab your round nose pliers, again at the very end, and I'm going a little ways down. I'm going to start to turn until I can't turn anymore.
Reposition my hand by just moving it forward
and continue to turn. I'm going to take my pliers out, and then I'm going to use the tip of my pliers and close that loop. Just like that. And that's what you have. Now you're going to take your chain nose pliers and your flat nose pliers or whatever you have, and you're just going to straighten these loops so that both loops are the same direction. Just like that.
And you're going to make one more of these, and we'll be back.
Okay,
So I've made my 2 components, and then I have cut 2 pieces of chain 6.5 inches long. My necklace with my clasping will end up to be about 18 inches long. If you want it to be longer or shorter, adjust your chain accordingly. My clasping is rather big, so I've only cut 6.5 inches so that I will end up with my clasping included an 18-inch necklace. Now I'm going to open up these little units and put them onto the wire guardian. So we are going to build the necklace now. Just grab one of your units and place your flat nose about halfway on that unit and open the side that is open. Just like that, by lifting it up, twisting it up, and then place it onto your wire guardian and close it. Then we're going to do the same thing with the other unit. So just open up one of the loops, place it on the wire guardian, and close it. I don't think my loops are all the same size. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me today.
You can always trim one down if you need to, but this isn't closed, so let me close him tightly. There we go. And that's what that should look like, just like that. Then you're going to grab one of your jump rings. You should have 4 of them. And grab one. Come here. And I'm just going to place it in my flat nose. Today, I should just go back to bed. That's what I should do. Just go back to bed and give it up. But I don't seem to be willing to do that. And I need another pair of pliers. So what I've done is I've placed my jump ring in my flat nose pliers. The opening is right here. I'm covering about half of the surface of the jump ring, and then I'm going to cover the other half with my other pair of pliers and just crank that open by twisting it. Then I'm going to put it on the end of the components I made and drop on the chain. There's one link here, and I am going to place my pliers back on this jump ring and close it. Make sure you close it nice and tightly. And then we will go to this end and do the same thing with our clasp, of course. So I'm just going to open it, and then I'm going to drop the jump ring down, put on my clasping. I think I'll put this end on first, and close it. Now this is a double-sided pendant, so it doesn't really matter which side you put these on. And close this jump ring. And now go ahead and put the chain and the other half of your clasp on the other side of your necklace, and we'll be back. Okay, so that's what my necklace looks like. I'll get you in close so you can see the focal area here. Turned out really pretty. I am going to go ahead and make 2 more units just like this and come back and we'll just slide some ear wires on them and have a set. So make your pendant exactly the same with the wire guardian, the whole thing, 2 more times. Okay, so I have made 2 more of the pendants, and I've gotten out 2 ear wires. I forgot to tell you in the beginning, you'll need ear wires. So make sure you have a couple ear wires. And then I am just going to open the ear wire, find which side opens, let me see, and just lift it up like this and slide it on. Look at which side you want your pendant to hang forward. They're double-sided, but one side is usually a little bit neater and prettier than the other side. So choose which side you want to be to the front, and then just put your ear wires on. Let's do it one more time here. And now I have a matching set of earrings. And here is my pendant. And I think if you did, like you can see the crystal just peeking through, and that was the whole way I wanted it to look. I wanted it just kind of peek through. But I think if you used a gold, or not a gold, excuse me, you could use a golden champagne, you could use a golden green, you could use an emerald green, you could use a silver sparkle, especially if you wanted to use like aluminum, Toho, and nickel with the silver sparkle, and that would be really pretty too. You could use white on the outside for the 6mm rounds, and you could also use, like I said, you could use 4mm rounds, or I believe bicones should work just fine too. And you can make this work regardless if you have cuboids or not. But you could play with the color combinations. You could use red and green seed beads. You could make it a lot more Christmassy if you want, or you could make it not Christmassy at all. This originally was a design that I created a few years back, and I made it in pink and a few other colors
just for summertime earrings, and it wasn't quite as wreathy looking. So you can change it to be very Christmassy or just to be an everyday thing, depending upon how you do the color scheming. So this is modified from one I did previously. I put a little bit more into this one as far as embellishments, but originally it was called Summer Sparkle, I believe, on my other channel. So this is what the entire set looks like, and I think it turned out really pretty. I really like it. It's just easy, fast moving, and really cute. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you for putting up with me. Bye-bye.